Evening, everybody. How is everybody doing? What is today? Today is August the 9th, and today is Father's Day. Welcome to another live from Study with Pedro, by the way. Now, in the U.S., Father's Day is in June, and it's hot. And here in Brazil, it's August. And no, it was good weather today. We had good weather. Today is warmer than last Sunday. So we're happy about that. So we have very good weather. We have been blessed, abençoado, with this weather. Now, for Father's Day, I did not receive a haircut for Father's Day. So I'm still waiting for my haircut. So it has been over 7 months. Remember, over 7 months since I cut my hair. And yes, I'm still ashamed. I will not take off my hat for this class, so this live. And I hope everybody had a good Father's Day, like me. Visited my in-laws today. It was a very busy week this week, and a very busy week. And today and yesterday were both very busy days. So next week things will calm down, acalmar. So I will get to relax, conseguir. I will get to relax next week. Então, nobody has any questions so far, so I will go now to my presentation, and it will be a few seconds. I'm going to share screen right now, so it will take about 10 to 15 seconds. So there we go. And no comments so far, so everybody is happy. And oh, good night, everybody. So that's not it. What we want to look at. All righty. Here we go. Let's get started. As you know, I start with let's get started. Vamos começar. Então, stuff, coisas. Bold is going to be the new text. I start every week with this. Sorry, please be patient. But bold is new text for 2 of my classes. Or maybe it is new text. Maybe it's old text for you guys. Sorry. But bold will be the new text. Italics will be the prepositions. And then the asterisks will be the adverbs with L-Y no final. And then we have the brackets, the participle. Now, I treat the participles differently than conventional English. So, but it's the same thing, basically. So it's not going to include the perfect tense. Terceira coluna, but different context. Então, then we have the red letters. Words with any, some, no, and every. And one more, it is underline, keywords, the keywords today. Now, what are the keywords today? Well, we're going to look at the reflexives. These are words we have looked at in the past, but we need to look at these again. And myself, in this case, is eu mesmo. So these are the reflexives. And Portuguese loves reflexives. Se concentrar, se casar, verbs like this, and it doesn't make sense. It's very confusing for me. So here we have reflexive would be myself, yourself, você mesmo, ourselves, remember that's plural, nós mesmo, and themselves, eles mesmo, himself, ele mesmo, herself, and one that always confuses me, itself. I'll call that si mesmo. Sorry, it's one thing. It's third person. Remember, it, coisa, itself. Então, others that we'll look at, would and so. So you guys know these. We have looked at these in the past. Então, other stuff. Oh, we got phrasal verbs today. We're going to review some of these phrasal verbs from the last few weeks and look at some new ones. So only 4 today. One is follow through. And then I put cumprir as promessas. When you promise something, or when your job is to do something, then you follow through. You complete it. Cumprir is probably the best. Cumprir as promessas here. Então, we have pass out. Pass out is desmaiar. It's an easy verb to remember, pass out. Então, end up. Terminar, acabar. These are the ones we've looked at in the past. I drove to Guarulhos, and for those in São Paulo, I drove to Guarulhos, and I forgot the exit, and I ended up in Rio de Janeiro. I could not understand computers, so I ended up teaching English. So acabar, terminar, and turn out. I'm hoping this is right. This is according to Google, but turn out to be. We'll look at this here in a few minutes. So I've never used this, obviously, in Portuguese, so this was news to me. Então, two more. Take a look at. This is something we've looked at in the past. Dar uma olhada. And the last one is take place. This is acontecer. Now, this is usually a formal event or a formal circumstance, and we'll take a look at this. So, the soap opera, the novella, takes place in Rio de Janeiro or Salvador. It happens in Salvador. So this is a formal event. Então, now the story of Jonah. We have looked at the story of Jonah for the last 4 weeks, and this will be the last week, obviously, because it's only 4 chapters. So the story of Jonah so far, até agora. Chapter 1, Jonah ran and saw his mistake. I see the verb take in there, mistake. We will look at this more. Mistake. This is erro, but it's also errar. Can be. So because you see the verb take. We'll look at that more in the future. If Jonah ended after chapter 1, it would be a great story. That's right. He ran and saw his mistake. Chapter 2, well, Jonah repented. You remember this verb, arrependeu. And if Jonah ended after chapter 2, it would be a great story. And chapter 3, Jonah finally followed through. So here, ele cumpriu his tarefas, or his promise. Então, if Jonah ended after chapter 3, it would be a great story. So, and then comes chapter 4. Confusing. Very confusing. The book of Jonah, remember, is the only book about a prophet. It's the only book about a prophet. Not includes a prophet, but the story is about Jonah. And there is only one name in the book, and that is Jonah. And God, Jehovah. And then everything is huge. Remember, huge is imenso in Jonah. Oh, it's huge, great, mais que grandão. Huge, imenso. And that includes the misunderstanding, mal entendimento, in chapter 4. And we're going to look at that today. Então, there it is. Let's take a look. Dar uma olhada. But first, vocabulary. All right. What do we have for vocabulary? Head. Now, you know head is cabeza, but it also is go. Go. And is extremely common. I forgot how many millions of times I said head instead of go. Where are you heading? And this is usually something that is happening now in the present tense. Where are you heading? Not always. Rarely in the past tense. Sometimes in the future, but usually in the present tense. Where are you heading, Pedro? I'm heading to the mall. So, but usually head technically is a general direction, and it's not exactly to someplace, the specific place. And usually, not always. Então, now we have grow. Grow, grew, grown. And this is crescer. We have looked at this in the past, so we need to look at this again because of some confusion. Ease. Ease is aliviar. Now this is a strange word for as a verb because easy, fácil. And also we have disease. Disease is doença, and it's a very strange concept. This comes from the Greek, but the word ease is a verb. Então, spare, poupar. Now we have here in Brazil or São Paulo, poupa tempo, and I discovered it's not poupa tempo, it is leva tempo. Então, so they should change the name. It's not poupa tempo. Então, so tell, told. Discernar ou distinguir, I believe is distinguir is the verb. It's very strange because tell is contar. So we will look at this, and it's a strange verb, and all my students will see this verb eventually. Então, wish, desejar. Now, wish is more of a desejar, desejo, the verb desejar. It's also a thing. By the way, that's a regular verb. Wish, wished, wished. I'm sorry. So wish is desejar, or it can be desejo, but it's an open desejo. And it's probably something that isn't going to happen, that never would happen. But, you want to be lucky, sortudo, whatever the case may be. Now we have react. Agir is act, and react is reagir. Condemn, condenar. And those are the verbs today, only 8 of them, 4 which you really should memorize in the next week. Head, grow, tell, and react. All right, now we have things. Shelter, abrigo. Shade, sombra. So we need that. Worm, I try to forget those. Vermes. And electric bill, you definitely need these. Electric bill, conta de luz. Now bill rather is conta. Gas bill, water bill, electric bill. But here you say luz. Light bill. Can be light bill. That's old. That's when I was a kid. We said the light bill. Now we just say electric bill. Counseling. Now this is gerundio. It's not a thing. It is a thing. It's not a verb. Counsel is the verb. Counseling is the thing. It's like marketing. Marketing is a thing. Building. Prédio. Building. It's a thing. So here, counseling is a thing. Standard. Padrão. Standard. And worthy. Now we have looked in the past at worth. Worth is valor, and worthy is digno. And we have behavior, comportamento, behavior. Então, I have good behavior at home. Okay, that's a lie. All right, now let's look at our text tonight. This is the 4th chapter of Jonah. But to Jonah this seemed very wrong, and he became very angry. So he prayed, Our Lord, I knew from the beginning that you wouldn't destroy Nineveh. That's why I left my own country and headed for Spain. You are a kind and merciful God. Remember, kind and merciful God. Oops. And you are very patient. You always show love. And if these people stopped sinning, you would change your plans to destroy them. Now let me die. I would be better off dead. We'll look at that here in a little bit. Better off. But the Lord replied, Is it right for you to be angry? Jonah then left Nineveh and sat down east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. And the Lord provided a leafy plant. Now I apaguei leafy because it is in some versions. So then the Lord provided a plant and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head, to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was happy, very happy about the plant. Anyhow, the next morning, God sent a worm to eat part of the plant. The worm began eating the plant, and the plant died. After the sun was high in the sky, God caused a hot east wind to blow. The sun became very hot on Jonah's head, and he became very weak. He asked God to let him die. He said, "It is better for me to die than to live." But God said to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" "It is," he said, Jonah. "I'm so angry, I wish I were dead." And the Lord said, you did nothing for that plant. You did not make it grow. It grew up in the night, and the next day it died. And now you are sad about it. And should I not spare Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals? And now, verse 1. But to Jonah, this seemed very wrong, and he became angry. Now, here in Portuguese, profundamente descontente, é a mesma coisa. And if it is enfureceu, infuriated in English, would be. Então, now what seemed very wrong to Jonah? What can go wrong? What? The city of Nineveh repented? Is that why he became very angry? Or something else? Então, now here, Jonah uses hugely angry. Hugely angry. There's that word huge again. Remember the huge fish, huge city. Nineveh is a huge city, huge storm, huge wind, huge everything. So if there was, I think, 7 or 8 things in this book that was huge, that were huge. I'm sorry. So he prayed, "Our Lord, I knew nothing. I knew nothing from the beginning that you wouldn't destroy Nineveh. That's why I left my own country and headed for Spain. You're a kind and merciful God, and you are very patient. You'll always show love. And if these people stop sinning, you would change your plans to destroy them." And it's almost the same thing. Here in Portuguese, you always show love. It says you are cheio de amor, full of love. Not mostrar love. In English, it says mostrar. And it's a little different context. I prefer the Portuguese in this verse, definitely. Anyhow, now we have to keep in mind the book of Jonah is the end of a long conversation. "Our Lord, I knew from the beginning that you wouldn't destroy Nineveh." This is nothing new. This whole thing is nothing new to Jonah and is nothing new to God, especially Jonah's reaction. Reação. This is the conversation between Jonah and God, entity Jonah and God. God wanted Jonah, just like all the other prophets. Moses, I mentioned, Isaiah, all these people tried to run. Jeremiah, some of the judges, Gideon. And he prepared Jonah using the big fish. He prepared Jonah. Então, now how did Jonah get into Nineveh? This is for review. Now get into. Remember, in is the position and to is the direction. So he wasn't in Nineveh, but now he is. And he went to Nineveh. So into is the two prepositions together. American English, remember, we would say just get in Nineveh. But in English technically is correct. Into it is the direction and the change in position. Então, now Jonah smelled like a fish. Ele cheirou como peixe, peixe. The god of Nineveh was Dagon, remember, and he was half man. Remember, metade meio, and half fish. I showed you the picture in chapter 1. They would have killed him instantly if he was lucky, sortudo. Probably they would have tortured him first. Eles teriam torturado Jonas. So they would have killed him or tortured him. Anyhow, verse 3. Now let me die. I would be better off dead. Agora, eu imploro, I beg. Here, it's not in here. It's the context. But the Portuguese is correct, by the way. and then here it says, because to me, it is better for me to die than to live, in Portuguese. Então, I would be better off dead because of Nineveh or his own guilt. We don't know, but we will look at that here in a little bit. In a few minutes, we're going to diagnose Jonas. Então, better off. Now, this is a better position, in a better position. For example, she is better off with the new job. Brazil is better off without the corruption. And I would be better off if I washed the dishes occasionally. But, I have artriite da cozinha. Doesn't permit me to wash the dishes. For some reason, only in the kitchen do I get this this disease, artriite da cozinha. Então, so verse 4, but the Lord replied, is it right for you to be angry? This is a very strange question from God. In Portuguese, você tem razão. Você tem alguma razão. And do you have some reason? Do you? And I guess it's any reason. Do you have any reason to be furious? Fúria, furious. Do you have any reason? Então, Jonah then doesn't say his answer. Jonah then left and sat down east of the city. There he made himself a shelter and sat in its shade and waited to see what would happen to the city. So almost the same thing. You see abrigo for shelter and shade, sombra, just about the same translation here. Now the conversation with God and Jonah took place inside the city of Nineveh. Inside the city. So God probably asked Jonah the question, and Jonah was furious, and he left Nineveh immediately. I don't want, don't use common sense with me. Don't use logic. Logic never works. And facts. Don't use facts with me when we're talking. So don't confuse me with the facts. So Jonah probably left. I don't want to talk about this, God. So he probably left. And then Jonah watched some amazing things happen. And he felt guilty, probably. Culpado. Guilty. And I think this happened after Jonah's first day. I think he spent one day in Nineveh before he left. So, and he's asking himself, hey, what am I doing here? I'm not the person for this job. And some other things. We will diagnose Jonah, diagnosticar, in a few minutes. What am I doing here? But it's worse than it's not, what am I doing here? But I think he is horribly confused, very confused about everything. Anyhow, verse 6, then the Lord God provided a plant and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head, to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the plant. And here it says, fez crescer uma planta sobre Jonas. Now, we'll look at this right now, actually. So grow is crescer. So he made, in Portuguese, just said made the plant grow. Now here it says grow up over. And there's two prepositions involved. This is not a phrasal verb. The plant grew up and then it grew over Jonah. So, and now grow is crescer. Now grow up is amadurecer, only for people. Only for people. And in English we would use mature also, physically and emotionally. Now, I grew up in the United States. Eu cresci nos Estados Unidos. I grew up there. And nothing, by the way, nothing else, no things grow up, only children, emotional and physical children grow up. Now, I grew up after I paid my first electric bill, conta de luz, and I immediately noticed that nobody is going to pay my bills for me. I am responsible for my electric bills. I grew up after my first electric bill. Verse 7. The next morning, God sent a worm to eat part of the plant. The worm began eating the plant, and the plant died. Now, in Portuguese, for strange reason, it says lagarta, which is caterpillar, and it's not a worm. And the Hebrew, it's definitely worm. And here the verb is dry. The plant dried, not died. Morreu, no, secou. The plant dried. Então, verse 8. After the sun was high in the sky, God caused a hot east wind to blow. This is assoprar. The sun became very hot on Jonah's head, and he became very weak. He asked God to let him die. He said, "It is better for me to die than to live," like the previous one in Portuguese. And in Portuguese, here he says, "Nascer do sol." The correct version here is the English. The sun was high in the sky. So nascer do sol, the sun was born in the morning. And in Portuguese, Deus maior, he became very weak. And Portuguese, Deus maior, and this is correct here in the Portuguese. And in the Portuguese, say seria melhor. In the Hebrew, it is better. Not it will be better for me to die, like Portuguese. So in here, the English is more correct. Então, there's Deus maior, pass out. He almost passed out. Então, verse 9, but God said to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" "It is," he said, "and I'm so angry, I wish I were dead." And there he asks again, "Você tem alguma razão?" Então, in Portuguese. Now, the wish is not correct. It's more to the I want to die. Not I wish I were dead. I want to die. Sometimes we exagerar. Oh, nossa, I wish, it's horrible. I was muito humilhado. I wish I were dead. Oh, I wished I was dead. Oh, nossa. And it's an exaggeration. It's hyperbole. So we're very humiliated in public. So I wish I were dead. Então, here it is, so, and I'm so angry, I wish I were dead. Now, so remember, we have 6 options for so. Assim, então, sim, tanto, também. I think I spelled também wrong. That the accent should be over the A. Então. So which one is it? Assim, então, sim, tanto, também. Okay, the answer is tanto, tão, com tão raiva, I don't know. I wish I were dead. Tanto raiva. Now, there's an explicaçãozinha when we use tão or tanto. We need to explain. Here it is, I wish I were dead. I'm so angry, I wish I were dead. But with Jonah, I don't think this is hyperbole. This is the real Jonah speaking. I wish I were dead. Verse 10, and the Lord said, "You did nothing for that plant. You did not make it grow. It grew up in the night, and the next day it died. And now you are sad about it." So it grew up, not, I'm going to do it as so, but technically it can be, but it grew in the night. The same thing is different in Portuguese. Então, and this took place outside the city. Remember, he was in the city of Nineveh. He left. He was furious with God, and he left. Então, in verse 11, and should I not spare Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left? and also many animals. A little strange for the end of this book. And it's almost the same thing in Portuguese, but the order again is changed. Should I not spare Nineveh is at the end. Now deveria eu ter pena dessa grande cidade. Ter pena, a little different, but almost the same thing. Now here it says distinguish. They're mão direita da esquerda, and in the English it's tell. Can be discernar, distinguir. Então, I believe it's distinguir. Então, a mão direita. Então, in which. Now here's a virgula. And should I not spare Nineveh, virgula, in which there are more than 120,000 people. Now in this context, it wasn't like this in the translation. In Portuguese, it's que. Now que, as you know, can be that, who, or which. Now that is always a thing. Who is always a person. And which is a parentheses. And we will look at this more in the future. We need this is kind of complicated, a little complicated. Pedro is the person who came to Brazil from the United States. His car is the car that hit my car. So those are two examples, and then which is an example. Pedro drives a Honda, hit my car, which is a Honda, and now he is going to pay for it. So it's a little parentheses, which is from the rest of the sentence. We will spend more time with these three. And now, who are the 120,000? There are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left. Now, there are many many different ideas about this. Some think it was the population. The population was 120,000. But for a country like Assyria, Nineveh is a city inside of Assyria. For a country like that to be powerful, poderoso, there had to be more than 120,000 people. And some people think it's 1 million. And some people think it is the children in the city. So it's the number of children. But you know who I am by now. I have a different idea. What is my idea? I think Jonah left after the first day. And the 120,000 people are those people who never heard Jonah's message. They didn't have a chance to listen to Jonah. And this is an expression, can't tell the right hand, mão direita, from their left hand, mão esquerda. So these people can be children, or they can be people who, this could be spiritual. They cannot spiritually tell, distinguir, discernar their right hand from their left hand. It is, I think, any child can knows which hand is the right hand and the left hand. So I think he's talking about spiritually in the dark. No escuro. Então, the end. This is the end of the book. It's crazy. Final. And it doesn't make sense. Chapter 4 asked more questions than it answered. Asked more questions. And God gave Jonah his diagnosis here. Very interesting. Because Jonah never really changed. He went into the big fish, died, came back. He had a change of mind, but not a change of personality. Personalidade. So he was the same Jonah. Então, now how many times did Jonah want to die? At least 3 times that we know of. These are the times that are listed in the Bible. Maybe many more times, probably hundreds more times. There was once in chapter 1 and twice in chapter 4. Jonah was definitely not right, in our opinion. Anyhow, now how did God respond to Jonah? Now this is, I think, what chapter 4 is all about. Now it's God's turn. How did God respond? He saved Jonah. Literally, he saved Jonah. And chapter 1 was with the big fish. So here he saved him physically. In chapter 4, he used counseling. Here's consaliamento. He used counseling. Now, what do psychologists do? Now, I had an opportunity to teach psychology, psicologia, and these are psychologists, remember, psychologists. Now, psychologists. It's extremely fascinating, but it is not an exact science. Ciencia exacta. So there are some things that I think are crazy, but there are some things that I think are very helpful that can help their patients. What do psychologists do? They ask questions. Definitely, they ask questions. They want the patients to express themselves, to tell them what their personality is, their psyche, what is who they are. And the only way is through the patient by asking questions. Now, what are here's among the entity, the most popular questions? What are they? How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? And then people tell their emotions. And here it is in Portuguese. Como isso faz você se sentir? There's that reflexivo, se sentir. So how does this make yourself feel? It doesn't sound right. How does it make you feel? And the other one, is it right for? We remember this question. God asked 2 times. Es certo que. So, and then the psychologists give their diagnosis eventually. And the Lord said, you did nothing for that plant. You did not make it grow. It grew up in the night, and the next day it died. And now you're sad about it. So this is Jonah. Do something. Here's the problem. Do something. You can't be sad about it. But God also gave us credentials. This? Credenciais. And should I not spare Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell the right hand from the left, and also many animals? He showed his compassion for the evil city of Nineveh. His compassion, this, compassion, just like he did for us. And he loves us. He loved Nineveh, and he loves us. God is the great psychologist. Grande psicologista. He asks questions. He asked Cain in Genesis, for example. This is a perfect example. Where is your brother? Everybody knows this story. Cain killed Abel. Mató Abel. Where is your brother? God asked. Did God know? Well, of course he did. Of course he knew. But he let Cain's word condemn. There's condemn, condenar, himself. Condemn, we don't say the N. Condemn himself, ele mesmo. Here we have the reflexive. He let Cain's, as palabras, suas próprias palavras, condenem, então, himself. Good luck with that. Então, was there anybody else? Sorry, guys, I didn't highlight this. Was there anybody else? Alguém mais? Yes, Job. Now here you say Job. God asked Job questions. And we need to take another look. Not a look, but another look. Because I don't think we know who Job is. We say he has the patience of Job. I think it is the exact opposite. God has different standards, padrões, for everybody. And here's what he asked. Job. Joel, who do you think you are to disagree? Who do you think you are to disagree with my plans? You do not know what you are talking about. Stand up like a man. I'll ask you some questions and you give me some answers. Oof, I don't want to be Job here. Então, and God then asked Job questions for 2 chapters. 2 chapters, 38 and 39, the rest of 38 and chapter 39. Oof. What did Job say then? Job answered the Lord, I'm not worthy to speak. And now so digno. What can I say to you? Now, what was wrong with Job? Well, we'll have to wait for another day. Sorry, guys, about Job. But what was wrong with Jonah? Now, Jonah, in my opinion, he had something called borderline personality disorder. You're wondering, oh, yeah, I agree. What is that, Pedro? What is borderline personality? Let's look at the symptoms. You know this word, sintomas in Portuguese? You get angry at small changes in plans, mudanças pequenas in plans. We looked at angry, com raiva, nervoso. Now, there's also risky behavior. Now, here, behavior is comportamento, and risky comportamento de risco, I believe, in Portuguese, risky behavior. And there's low self-esteem. Baixo autoestima baixa, low self-esteem. Then we have intense episodes of anxiety and depression. Now you can resolve what this is in Portuguese. Intense episodes of anxiety and depression, ansiosidade e depressão, and they explode in everyday situations. And we see this on the news. Somebody killed their relatives, father, brother, because of the hot dogs or the milk was not in the icebox. They explode in these situations. Então, then there's suicide and suicidal thoughts, pensamentos de suicídio and suicídio. Now, these symptoms start around the teenage years. Now, you know, teenage is 13 to 19. 13 years, 13, here you say adolescentes, anos adolescentes. Então, now what else? O que mais? Starts around the teenage years. Well, there's bipolar. This starts around the teenage years. You know, bipolar personalities. Depression usually starts in the teenage years. There's obsessive compulsive. You know this in Portuguese, obsessivo compulsivo. And then there's anorexia. All of these start in the teenage years. Schizophrenia. Very fascinating, schizophrenia. And then borderline personality disorder. All of these things and more. They all start around the teenage years. And later, not today, but we will look at why these things start in the teenage years. Everything starts around the teenage years. It's like when I was a kid. Everything tastes like chicken. Tem gosto de frango. Tem gosto de frango. Assim. Snakes, you name it. Everything tastes like chicken. So everything starts around the teenage years. It's very strange. Now, what do we do with Jonah? This is an interesting question. What do we do with Jonah? Because we put him in a box. He is the crazy guy who went, who tried to run from God. And then finally, against his will, contra vontade, he went to Nineveh, or God broke him. I don't believe it. Does God use people with borderline personality disorder? Does God use people with this problem? People with schizophrenia? Bipolar? anorexic, depressed. Yes, of course. Of course he uses them. And these people are the most effective. As efetivo, these people are the most effective. And we don't see it because we put them in a box. Those are the crazy people. I'm going to avoid them, evitar. So we put them away. And we don't understand that these people are actually the most effective. Why? Because we are trying to reach perfection or happiness in our lives. And here, reach, reach means alcançar. Perfeição, felicidade, and we don't reach both of them. And we need to get involved, not only in somebody else's life, but understand what is happening to the other people. Get involved in some way. Então, now who is Jonah written to? The book really is about Jonah and God, you and me, especially today, because it seems that, now here's parece, parecer, it seems that everybody is depressed, anxious, or afraid. This wasn't the case 100 years ago, for example. Everybody is depressed, anxious, or afraid. This is a new phenomenon, really, after World War II. And it's getting worse. But that's the idea. We don't need to be depressed, anxious, or afraid. It happens. These things happen. We have, we don't stay happy all the time. We go like this in life. So everybody gets depressed. Everybody gets anxious or afraid. In school, we're always anxious. So in São Paulo, we're afraid to go to certain neighborhoods. And something bad happens in our lives, and occasionally we get depressed, but we come out of it. Usually, sometimes there are medical reasons, but that's for another day. And is it right? Is it right to be anxious? Is it right? Is it right to get depressed, to be afraid, when we don't have to? And we live in a world that wants to demoralize us. This verb, demoralizar. It wants to demoralize us when we shouldn't. We don't need to be demoralized because we know the truth. And again, for some people, there is a medical condition, but that's between you and your doctor, whoever it may be. So for others, we're just not listening. We need to listen to what God is saying. Not only saying, but what he is asking. That's my question. Are you listening? Are you listening to God's questions? And we just don't understand, or we don't hear God. Why? Because we're on our cell phones. In the United States, the average American, típico americano, checks their cell phone every 10 minutes. Basically every 10 minutes, 96 times per day. And I'm sure it is the same here in Brazil. We check our phone basically every 10 minutes. Turn off the phone and start listening to God. And because the things that are on our phones and the computers are not helping us. So we need to turn off the phone, get alone with God, and really have a good conversation, because he's asking questions and he's also listening, guys. So we will leave the rest for next time. Now, next week, we're going to look at the New Testament. We're going to look at Jesus. So we're going to change, take a turn in the next week and go back to the New Testament. So thank you for your patience for the last 5 weeks. I hope you enjoyed the story about Jonah. Very different than what we learned in church and in the Bible study. I just think we don't understand, or we don't want to understand, how God works and who God works through. So Yeah, a very interesting phenomenon. So thank you again for watching tonight, and see you guys next week or in class next week also. So have a good night, everybody. Sleep well. Happy rest of the Father's Day to y'all. Thank you very much. Good night.